on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair, myself. This public meeting has been called to satisfy the requirements of the Planning Act and council bylaws. Notice of this meeting has been given by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 60 meters of the subject properties. In addition, a public notice sign has been posted on the lands. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed, should the application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The process for tonight: the purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. Please state your name and mailing address for the record. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions will be determined by the committee following the public portion of this hearing. All interested parties are invited to be present. Copies of decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to other persons who file a written request. There are colored forms on the podium, not at the back of the room, for this purpose. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Municipal Board within 20 days of the decision for minor variances and with 20 days of the mailing of the decision for consent applications. Here we have the hearing panel with us. Can you guys just state your names?
Don Cook.
Wayne Lockey.
Thank you. Does any member of this panel have a pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing?
No. I do not, Mr. Chair.
No, Mr. Chairman.
And I have none. Are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, file A23 2016P for John Cartier and Cynthia Magazzini. I have received a request for adjournment.
Okay. And you're here?
Request is based on the comments received from the region in relation to my septic bed.
Okay.
Did you want me to give you more details on the?
Do we need, or we just choose to?
If you have any, and then I would just need a motion to defer the application and to deal with the fee.
Okay.
But Mr. Cartier may wish to speak to that.
Okay.
Okay, I'd make the motion that we defer the application.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, just
And to defer the fee too.
to defer the fee as well.
And I agree with the deferral of the fee.
It doesn't have to be re-noticed and everything?
We do have to remail the notice. It will be of a similar nature. It will be the same notice. We just need to make sure that the region's comments are addressed. So when you say defer, do you mean waive the fee?
Waive the fee.
Waive the fee.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. So all those in favor? Okay. So you are free and clear. Let us know when your septic conditions are taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. We'll start with A24 2016P. This is Jeffrey Warren and Kristen Warren. Are there representatives for this application? Do you mind just having a seat over on the hot seat there and stating your name into the microphone for the record?
My name is Jeff Warren.
Thank you. Welcome. Could you read the correspondence into the record, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Excerpts from the planning report. The subject land is located on the south side of Chandler Road, lying west of Church Street, being part of Lot 16, Concession 13, and known municipally as 830 Chandler Road in the town of Pelham. The subject land is zoned agricultural A in accordance with Town of Pelham zoning bylaw 1136, 1987 as amended. The minor variance application requests relief from section 7.7D, maximum accessory building height to allow a maximum accessory building height of 6.7 meters, whereas 3.7 meters are allowed. The Committee of Adjustment in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the bylaw, subject to the following considerations. 1, the variance is minor in nature. The proposed accessory building height of 6.7 meters is minor given the rural context, the orientation, and the scale, which ensures it appears secondary to the primary dwelling being located in the rear yard. The two-story dwelling helps to avoid the possibility of the garage being taller than the house. No negative impacts are anticipated by the adjacent neighbors, as good distance and tree buffers the surrounding uses from a slightly taller structure. The variance is desirable for the development or use of the lands. The variance request will allow for appropriate storage of personal belongings without causing any undue hardships on the neighbors, which are reasonably spaced and buffered by mature woodlot. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. The official plan does not speak to buildings accessory to residential dwellings, but does permit uses which are compatible with the agricultural character. The increase in accessory building height will not compromise the objective of the official plan. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The size of the proposed accessory building's height at 6.7 meters is appropriate given the rural context, while still ensuring that the dwelling is maintained as the primary use of the land. Plenty of open space is available on the site, and woodlots surround the building cluster. Thus, the height will not adversely impact the rural residential nature of the lot or the surrounding countryside. Therefore, the variance maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw with respect to accessory building, massing, and siting. To date, the following comments have been received. The Niagara Region Planning and Development Services have offered no objections. The NPCA advised that the proposed garage will be located on the manicured lawn outside of provincially significant wetland and the 30-meter buffer. Following a site visit, the location of the proposed garage does not fall within the environmental conservation area, being a significant woodland. The few trees identified for removal in order to site the proposed garage are not species of concern. At building permit stage, the town will ensure that appropriate sediment and erosion control fencing is installed to protect the significant woodland, and they have no objections to the application. The Public Works Department has no comment. The Building Department asks that all necessary permits are required prior to construction commencing, and Fire and Bylaw Services provided no comment as well. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application meets the 4 minor variance tests laid out by the Planning Act. The application is consistent with provincial policies, the regional official plan, and conforms to the general intent of the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. The authorization of the minor variance is not expected to generate negative impacts for adjacent uses or the community at large. Consequently, planning staff recommend that application file number A19-2016P be approved, subject to the following conditions: that all necessary building permits be obtained prior to construction commencing for the new accessory building, and that appropriate sediment and erosion control fencing is installed prior to construction commencing. And that's the consolidated correspondence, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Warren, do you have any comments on this application?
Nope.
No? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Okay. Members, do we have any comments or questions on this?
I have none here.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So I guess that's all taken care of. We don't have any other concerns. Nothing we'd like to discuss? Okay, so then are we ready to render a decision through a formal motion?
I'd make the motion that we approve this. Decision is based on the following reasons. The variance is minor in nature, as no negative impacts are anticipated by the adjacent neighbors, as good distance and trees buffer the surrounding uses from a slightly taller structure. The general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained as the size of the proposed accessory building's height at 6.7 meters is appropriate given the rural context, while ensuring that the dwelling is maintained as the primary use of the land. The intent of the official plan is maintained as a proposed variance, as the increase in accessory building height will not compromise the objective of the official plan. The proposal is desirable for the appropriate development and or use of the land, as the proposal will allow for appropriate storage of personal belongings without causing any undue hardships on the neighbors, which are reasonably spaced and buffered by the mature woodlot. this application is granted without prejudice or any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or buffered or abutting property owners. And the Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act test for minor variance. And it should be subject to the following conditions: that all necessary building permits be obtained prior to construction commencing for the new accessory building, to the satisfaction of the chief building official, and that appropriate sediment and erosion control fencing is installed prior to construction commencing, to the satisfaction of the chief building official.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Good, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along, we'll go to file A25-2016P for John Karen and Heather Carter. Is there a representative here for this application? Good, if you guys could just come up and state your name for the record. Let's see, look at this.
Heather Carter.
John Karen.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer, could you read the correspondence into the record?
Yes. The subject land is located on the north side of Woodside Square, being registered plan 59M 149, lot 16, and municipally known as 31 Woodside Square in the town of Pelham. The subject land is zoned residential 2, R2. The minor variance application requests relief from section 14.2G, minimum rear yard, to permit a reduction from the rear yard setback to 5.5 meters, whereas 7.5 meters is required. The proposed variance will allow for the complete enclosure of an existing porch. The Committee of Adjustment may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the bylaw subject to the following considerations. 1, the variance is minor in nature. Reducing the minimum rear yard setback to 5.5 meters from a required 7.5 meters for an enclosed porch is minor overall, as one large tree acts as a buffer between most of the rear neighbors. The covered porch is an existing structure. No negative impacts are anticipated by the surrounding neighbors. The variance is desirable for the development or use of the land. The proposed addition to the dwelling increases the livable floor space and maintains adequate rear yard amenity space for the dwelling. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. The proposed variance will not unduly disturb any neighboring property owners, as reasonable distance buffers the surrounding. This reduction will not obstruct any of the purposes or intentions of the official plan, and therefore no adverse impact is anticipated. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The proposed rear yard setback is less than what is required, but still maintains a satisfactory setback, as the zoning bylaw was intended to do, while maintaining an adequate amenity area in the rear yard and maintaining appropriate separation between adjacent buildings. The variance will maintain the objective of the zoning bylaw. To date, the following comments have been received. The Town of Pelham Building Department indicated that all necessary permits are required prior to construction commencing. The Public Works Department offered no comments. Fire and Bylaw Services offered no comments, and no comments were received from members of the public. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application meets the 4 minor variance tests laid out in the Planning Act. The subject application is consistent with provincial policies, the regional official plan, and conforms to the general intent of the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. The authorization of the minor variance is not expected to generate negative impacts on adjacent uses and on the community at large. Consequently, planning staff recommend that application file number A9 2016P be approved, subject to the following condition: that all necessary permits are required prior to construction commencing. And that's the consolidated correspondence, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do the representatives have any comments on this application?
None at all, thank you.
No, it seems pretty straightforward, enclosing an existing porch. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on this application? Thank you. Members, do we have any questions or comments?
I do not. Looks pretty straightforward to me.
I agree with the comments of Mr.
Okay.
Lucky. It's just covering your porch.
Okay, great. So, you guys haven't thought of anything you'd like to add?
Mm,
You're
not
okay?
really.
The last 45 seconds, you're all right. All right.
I think now you might.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So, and we don't have any more discussion? Okay.
I'd move the approval of this variance application, Mr. Chairman. My decision is based on the following reasons. The variance is minor in nature, the covered porch is an existing structure, therefore no negative impacts are anticipated in the surrounding neighborhood. 2, that the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained as the proposed rear yard setback still maintains satisfactory setback as the zoning bylaw is intended to do, while maintaining an adequate amenity area in the rear yard and maintaining appropriate separation between buildings. That the intent of the official plan is maintained, as the proposed variance will not unduly disturb any neighboring property owners, as a reasonable distance buffers the surrounding area. The proposal is desirable for the appropriate development and for the use of the land as proposed. The addition of the dwelling increases the livable floor space and maintains adequate rear yard amenity, so I guess you have a good both ways. This application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. The Committee of Adjustments considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report, analysis, and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act test for a minor variance. But I'd like to include the following condition. So I'm moving the variance be granted subject to the following condition, that all necessary building permits be obtained prior to construction commencing for the new accessory building to the satisfaction of the chief building official.
I'd second that here.
Okay, then let's put it to a vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go ahead. That? Okay. No worries. And last on the agenda in terms of applications, an application for consent, file B17 2016P. Representatives have moved to the seat already. Could you state your name for the record?
Stephen Kaiser.
Thank you, Stephen. Madam Secretary Treasurer, could you read the correspondence?
Yes. The subject parcel shown as Part 1 on the plan attached to the notice of hearing has 21.34 meters of frontage on the west side of Stella Street, lying north of John Street, being Lot 10, New Plan 670, and known municipally as 36 Stella Street in the town of Pelham. Application is made for consent to convey 1,103 square meters of land, being Part 2, for a new single detached dwelling. The existing dwelling has been demolished, and Part 1 on 975 meters square of land is to be retained for continued use as a new single detached dwelling. To date, the following comments have been received. The Building Department. All necessary permits and approvals are required prior to construction commencing on Parts 1 and 2. The Public Works Department asks that the Public Works comments be consulted, and those included a proposed condition to be recognized by development agreement, and no comments from the public were received. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposal is an ideal application of current planning and development goals dealing with appropriate and sensitive infill housing, making more efficient use of the existing built-up lands where suitable to do so. The proposed severance should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with regards to traffic, privacy, and are large enough to address drainage on site. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that the consent be granted subject to the following conditions. That the applicant enter into a development agreement with the town to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works to address the following matters. Submitting of a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan for the parcels for all parcels to demonstrate that drainage does not negatively impact neighboring properties. Disconnection of all existing services at the property line. The applicant shall bear all costs associated with such and must be witnessed by town staff. Municipal water and sanitary connections be installed to service the new lots as per town standards under a temporary works permit, and the applicant shall bear all costs associated with such. If existing services are proposed for reconnection, those services shall be exposed at the property line and inspected by the Public Works Department for condition, size, material, bedding, and separation. If the services do not meet current town standard, the applicant shall decommission said services by disconnecting the water line at the main stop and capping the sanitary service. The applicant shall bear all costs associated with these works, and the applicant shall install driveways and culverts as applicable to town standards under a driveway entrance and culvert permit application issued through the Public Works Department. And that's the consolidated correspondence, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kaiser, do you have anything you'd like to add on this application?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Just for the committee members, I purchased the property this summer. I went through it once prior to purchasing it and had my surveyor do a few sketches in terms of what we might do with the property should we be successful in purchasing it. One of the sketches involved a lot in front of the house or on Stella Street that would need 2 minor variances. One a variance for frontage on John. It was somewhat of a flag lot. The other one for a rear yard setback for the existing residence that was currently at 36 Stella. We also looked at a drawing that took in 3 lots on the same property, involving a few more minor variances. Closing on the property, we went through the house and had a much harder look. The house had been used as a group home. It was rough, and there was substantial cost to renovate. So the decision was made to demolish the home, and we've obviously decided to move forward with this severance application as put before you today. There's no minor variances involved, and I think it fits well with the existing subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on this application? Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any questions or comments?
Pretty straightforward. I've looked at the lot, and 2 is good.
Seems reasonable.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So I guess we're good. You have another opportunity to comment here, but I think you're all right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, good.
I won't go against those comments.
Okay, members, do we have any other discussion, or are we ready to render a decision?
I'd make the motion that we approve the application for consent. May I make it subject to the following conditions, which our secretary treasurer has already read, and I'm sure he understands and will get a copy of. And the decision is based on the following reasons: that the application conforms to the policies of the town of Pelham, official plan, regional policy plan, and provincial policy statement, and complies with the town zoning bylaw. No questions to this proposal were received from commenting agencies or neighboring property owners. This decision is rendered having regard to the provisions of sections 5124 and 5125 of the Planning Act as amended. The Committee of Adjustment considered all written and oral submissions and finds that subject to the provincial policy statement and is consistent with the provincial policy statement and complies with the growth plan, the Niagara Region official plan, and the town official plan.
Okay, can we have a second on that motion? Mr. Cook, thank you. And then let's put it to a vote. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Meet your
Thank you.
conditions.
Just some minutes for approval.
And that's right, we have minutes for approval.
I can suggest a motion if you'd like,
Okay.
that the minutes of the June 7th, August 9th, and September 13th, 2016 Committee of Adjustment hearings be approved, unless there are any errors or omissions in there.
Okay. Mr. Lockie moves that.
Yep,
Okay.
okay, I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Mr. Cook seconds, and let's put that to a vote. Okay, motion carries. And then I need a motion for adjournment.
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Seconded, Mr. Cook, all in favor? Motion carries.
Thank
There we
you.
go.
Uh,
Now we have to
25
sign some things.
Okay. So signatures.
Hit the button.
Oh, thank you.